This is the swing, painted sometime between 1767 and 1768 by Jean-Honoré Fragonard. At first glance, it's all about pleasure, visual, romantic, maybe even something more. A woman in a ruffled pink dress soars through a lush garden on a crimson swing. Her skirt swirls around her, her slipper flies through the air, and the scene feels light, playful, almost like a fantasy. The garden around her is thick with detail, twisting trees, soft light, and rose bushes that look more like velvet than anything from nature. It all feels theatrical, like a stage built for seduction. And then, with just a second glance, the story begins to change. Look down. Hidden in the bushes below, a man crouches with his eyes fixed on her. He's not watching, he's staring. Hat raised, face lit with awe, or maybe desire. His angle is suspiciously perfect. A flash of garter is visible, and it's clear he's not meant to be just a background figure. Now shift your eyes again, this time behind her. There's another man, older, tucked into the shadows, smiling gently as he tugs the ropes that keep the swing moving. Maybe a clergyman, maybe a clueless husband, but whatever he is, he's clearly not in on the joke. That sense of mischief isn't accidental. The swing has sparked both praise and raised eyebrows ever since it was first unveiled. From the very beginning, it was a painting made to stir things up. The story goes that Baron Louis-Jean Baillet de Saint-Julien, a courtly gentleman with very specific tastes, commissioned it with one bold request. He wanted his mistress painted on a swing while he, hidden below, gazed up at her in secret. The first artist he approached, Gabriel Francois Douanier, politely declined. He thought the whole idea was a bit too risque, but Fragonard didn't care. He was all right then, and accepted the job eagerly, and the result wasn't just a bold painting, it was a turning point for him. With The Swing, Fragonard stepped away from stiff, serious court scenes and into the lush, flirtatious world of private commissions for the elite, and it paid off. Centuries later, the painting still draws gasps, and not just for its scandalous details. In 2021, after more than 100 years without cleaning, The Swing was finally restored to its full glowing beauty and returned to view at London's Wallace Collection. Its colours, its textures, even its secrets, everything came back to life. This painting has got its charm, and that's why we've picked out a few details that might just change the way you see this infamous masterpiece. Let's start with the setting, because nothing in The Swing is there by accident. For all its playful energy, this isn't some wild, untamed forest. It's a garden, carefully crafted to feel private and tucked away, like a world built just for this moment. The trees twist and lean in, the roses spill out in every direction, and there's a softness to the light that makes it all feel like a secret space. It really is beautiful. But look a little closer and you'll notice hints that this isn't just nature doing its thing. A fence barely visible in the background quietly reminds us that this is exclusive ground, closed off from the outside world. Stone sculptures sit like silent witnesses, adding a touch of elegance and control. In 18th century France, these private gardens were popular among the elite. They weren't just for walks or flowers. They were spaces where rules could be bent, where affairs could happen in the shade of the hedges. They were sex gardens. Even the way the plants seemed to grow wildly, pushing past the edges, wasn't just a pretty choice. Around this time, French tastes were shifting from strict geometric gardens to a looser, more natural English style. The overgrowth here speaks to that shift, but it also does more than follow trends. Art historian Donald Posner pointed out that placing a swing among so many trees doesn't make much practical sense. Instead, the wildness creates a feeling of something breathless, tangled, alive. All that tangled beauty, It's doing more than setting the scene, it's pulsing with meaning. Nature in all its fertile excess mirrors the energy of the woman on the swing, youthful, blooming, full of life. And in a painting, this charged fertility isn't just about flowers. But even in all this lush freedom, Fragonard reminds us that nothing happens without rules. The ropes pulling the woman through the air don't just send her higher, they also hold her back. Pleasure exists, but it's always tied to control. That idea shows up again in the small stone figure of Cupid at the left. He raises a finger to his lips as if to say, shh. It's playful, but it's also a warning. This moment, this secret isn't meant for everyone. That little Cupid isn't random either. He's modelled after Menacing Cupid, a sculpture made for Louis XV's mistress, Madame Pompadour, so even the statue has its own history of scandal. His gesture here suggests the relationship between the woman and the man in the bushes is meant to stay hidden, shared in whispers, not shouts. And that's the real game Fragonard is playing. The swing always seems like some carefree fun, but it was created for private eyes only, meant to hang in a discreet little room where the owner and a few close guests could enjoy its charms in quiet laughter. It's bold, but only in the right company. Every wink, every glance, every detail reminds us this is pleasure behind closed doors. And yet, this wasn't Fragonard's only flirtation with flying women. In fact, he painted 3 different scenes where women appear on swings, and even tried his hand at a seesaw once. He wasn't inventing the idea out of nowhere either. Before him, artists like Joseph Christophe were already exploring the swing motif, especially during redesigns at Versailles in 1699. Others, like Jacques van Schuppen and Watteau, had also dipped into this theme, turning it into something of a trend. By the time Fragonard picked up his brush, swings had become a favourite symbol in aristocratic art. Light, fun, and loaded with meaning. But there was a catch. Nearly every time, it was women on the swings, not men. That wasn't a coincidence. It reflected a bigger idea about how femininity was viewed at the time. As art historian Donald Posner noted, these scenes weren't just playful, they were metaphors. The woman on the swing, carefree and passive, represented flirtation, unpredictability, and emotional highs and lows. The man, usually controlling the ropes or watching from the side, was the one in charge. Swinging back and forth became a symbol of how love was thought to work, especially when it came to women. But for many, the symbolism went deeper than just romance. The swing itself held physical, even erotic, meaning, as art historian Donald Posner pointed out in his landmark 1982 essay. He wrote, "Swinging not only quickens the heartbeat, it even more obviously sets the body in rhythmic motion." The message was clear that swinging didn't just suggest flirtation, it became a stand-in for lovemaking, especially in 18th and 19th century popular culture. And that meaning, well, let's be honest, it never really went away. Later, scholars expanded on this idea. They pointed to the man's outstretched arm beneath the woman and the soft folds of her pink dress, details that might hint at something more suggestive, maybe even anatomical. Art historian Jennifer Milam put it plainly in her 2000 essay. Swinging created moments of playful chaos, where usual rules slipped, bodies shifted, and glimpses were caught that normally stayed hidden. It wasn't just innocent fun, it was fun that knew exactly what it was doing. The swing's rhythm, the hidden glances, the shifting bodies, it all worked together to blur the lines between play and provocation. And in a painting so layered with suggestion, nothing was random. That's where the swing takes things a step further. It doesn't just show a secret affair, it stages a visual love triangle. On one level, it's right there in the scene, the young woman, her hidden lover in the bushes, and the older man behind her, possibly her husband, unwittingly pulling the ropes. But the triangle doesn't stop there. It also pulls in the artist and the viewer, turning the painting into a kind of flirtation with perception itself. Fragonard isn't just showing a scene, he's playing with how we see it. As art historian Jennifer Milan wrote, he turns the act of swinging into a playful visual trick. The movement, the angles, the teasing glimpses, they all twist the viewer's sense of what's real and what's illusion, like a game made of brushstrokes and suggestion. He does this with sharp attention to detail. The flowers, the trees, the blushing faces, they feel lifelike, bursting with colour and energy, and yet for all that realism, the painting isn't based on fact. It was supposedly commissioned as a portrait of the Baron and his mistress. But the people we see aren't actual portraits. They're characters, types, not individuals. Posner called them generalised young lovers, and that's exactly the point. They don't need names. They're stand-ins for something larger. Desire, secrecy, play. Even the little details join the act. Cupid tucked into the corner doesn't just nod to myth or flirtation. He drags real history into the picture, alluding to Pompadour and her own scandalous role in court life. In the end, that's Fragonard's real trick. He builds a painting that doesn't just show a story, it pulls us into one. The swing isn't just about the lovers, it's about the thrill of watching, the blur between real and imagined, and the quiet pleasure of being in on the secret. And speaking of watching and being in on secrets, our sexy channel has much more where this came from. So if this video took you to that special place where you can fully swing of your own accord, tickle that like button, spank subscribe, and we'll do the rest for you.